Okay, this is the members meeting, and this is a mandate from our bylaws that we have a members meeting each year. And it's a great mandate because what we want is to be transparent about what we're doing and give you a chance to ask questions. So we're going to have a barrage of information come at you from the things that the board has passed this year and our budget information, et cetera. I'm just going to start out with this is the outline we have planned for you. So we'll give updates. We're going to give an education prize. We'll have updates from Kevin and Kelly. We'll do the financial reports along with Doris, our treasurer, and then Alice will do our secretary's report. We'll have questions and answers, and then do a slideshow about all our members that have passed away during the last year. Okay. So just as an overview, when I became president, I really wasn't aware of all the different committees and things that we have going. So it's really a large organization, and we have many people, probably many of you in the audience that have participated in this. So our board is composed of 11 elected members. The election will be at the end of the year for the next set of people that are changing over. We have 6 divisions. We have 17 committees doing various jobs, plus 14 committees that deal with all the prizes that are given out. 5 working groups, 4 task forces. And then we have the whole office in DC, and that's composed of about 25 staff and 25 to 30 contractors. And Kevin will be giving you updates as to who is doing what over there. Then we have our journals, where we have 7 staff and 48 editors now. That just gives you the span of, I was the scientific editor back many years ago, and I think we had like 20. So we've really increased our journals and our editorial staff. And then there's 50 plus contractors that deal with the mechanisms of publishing. So basically, we're responsible for all those things. And then we added the Sky and Telescope, 2 years ago, something like that. And so there's a whole other staff that's at Cambridge, 13 staff plus contractors to do the magazine. And then, of course, hundreds of authors and photographers that contribute to the articles that we have in that magazine. Right now, we have about 8,000 some members. So in other words, we're a growing organization, which is great. But the trick is to keep all of those members, committees, et cetera, informed of what's going on. And that's been our big challenge, because we find we have a digest, but only about 15% of you read it. We have web pages, but I don't know what percentage read those. We have, various Facebook pages, et cetera. We're on Twitter, but the thing is, what is the best way to communicate? And that's, it's hard to know everything. That's one of the things I've found. It's hard to know what our 40-some committees are doing and to keep up. So this is your chance if you have questions. So that's down at the bottom there for our members. Of course, we have our meetings. Our meetings are now, this one is the first hybrid meeting. As Steve pointed out earlier today, if you want to nominate people to be a plenary speaker, there's a form on the webpage. You can do that. We're going to do a survey after this meeting to find out how well the virtual versus the in-person worked. So according to the numbers we have, about 12% of the registrants for this meeting are virtual. And so we're just waiting to see how how the sessions went, how the input, the two-way communication. It's not the same being virtual, but we want to know what the experiences are. So you're going to get a survey. Please fill it out, because it's going to matter how we do our future meetings based on what you tell us was good and bad about this particular meeting. This is our trial run. Of course, we have the job register and the career center. We have the AAS digest again. We try to put out, so Alice has been very good. She's putting out summaries of our board meetings in those digests, so you kind of get an idea of what we're thinking about and what decisions are being made throughout the year, not just at the members meeting here. And then, of course, we have our website, which again, Alice is doing a great job of trying to keep up to date with who's on what committee, et cetera. So, you know, I talked about at the introduction, a few of the highlights of what we've done during the past year. I just want to point out that we're doing all these things for our members. We have the journal, we have our meetings, we do public outreach on many of the issues that astronomy faces. But we changed our mission to be to add as a diverse and inclusive astronomical community. So, a lot of what we're doing is trying to be more inclusive. So one of the main things we did, we converted our journals to open access. This allows anyone to read our journals without any embargoes, without having to do a subscription. If you're at a small college, you could still read our journals. And so that allows greater access to scientific content. We've just finished a Beyond Academy task force, which is dealing with the people that do not end up with jobs at universities, but still want to be connected to astronomy. So we have a bunch of recommendations that came out of that we'll be working on doing. We've added an amateur astronomer task force they had a lot of recommendations. And what we did is we added a membership status of amateur astronomy. So if you go to your local clubs, make sure you advertise that amateurs can now be members at reduced rates. They come to our meetings at reduced rates. They can get Sky and Telescope at reduced rates. It's an important part of expanding our membership to include a lot of people that aren't necessarily professional, but are very interested in astronomy. And many of these are engineers, have their own telescopes, can contribute data, et cetera. They are very interested in competent people that want to know and be part of our organization. We're starting an AGU mentoring program, Mentoring 365. We're partnering with them. We're going to be part of their mentoring. So there again will be a form to fill out on the webpage if you want to be a member, if you have the time, to help people that are interested, especially junior people that want careers outside of normal academia to be mentored. And lastly, we've also started the National Osterbrock Leadership Program that's putting leadership opportunities into several institutions. The current one will run for 2 more years, and then hopefully we'll have another call for departments to participate in that. Okay, so because of the Salt Lake meeting cancellation, we were not able to provide the education prize at that time. So we're going to do it here. The 2021 education prize goes to Chris Impey for his national and international impact through his outstanding teaching of thousands of students at his home university and worldwide, his countless talks and articles about astronomy and astronomy education, his influential development of astronomy education research with his group at U of A, his excellent writing for non-scientists in introductory textbooks, popular books, his Teach Astronomy website, and other web-based learning tools, and his generosity in training so many others in our community to think more clearly about education and to become better teachers themselves. This prize is given annually to recognize outstanding contributions to the education of the public, students, and/or the next generation of professional astronomers. So I'm very happy to be able to give Chris his certificate. I keep forgetting to put this down. I'm going to go get the certificate, and Chris, come on up here. He can say a few words.
Thanks, Paula. It's a pleasure and an honor to get this award. And I've been gratified to see over 40 plus years as a member of the society that education has become more prominent, more integrated into the meetings, much more of an activity that the society embraces, and that's a positive thing. I'm just going to say a few brief remarks. You may have noticed that we live in a tricky time as scientists, as educators. We're surrounded by a sea of misinformation, a rising tide, if you like. He was speaking over 2 centuries before social media, but the satirist Jonathan Swift said, lies travel with swift feet while the truth comes limping in behind. he might have been talking about the misinformation crisis online in particular. So some of my work involves a sort of techie approach to that, using neural nets to try and automatically sniff out falsehoods and lies on the internet and flag good and bad websites and so on. So as an educator, I'm aware that we're fighting these big challenges. There's societal challenges. There's misinformation. There's the increasing and disturbing denigration of expertise and scientific knowledge. Not that we should get any credit for just having a PhD after our names out the gate, but expertise is being questioned in areas where it never used to be. And at the worst, it becomes the relativism of knowledge that, well, science and evidence-based reasoning is just one way of knowing something, but you could read tea leaves or dowse or use astrology or something else. They're all about equally good. So these are the things we have to push against in our work. And so I will just encourage everyone in the society, everyone here and more broadly, to take this as a positive challenge to try and make an impact on this situation. So if you're an educator, it's easy because you have students and you teach and you're in the classroom. But also for those of you or people in research settings who are not educators formally, there's plenty of things you can do, because informal science is the largest contact most citizens of the country get with science. So do whatever it is you can, talk to a Rotary Club, gather squirming third graders in front of you and tell them how cool exoplanets or black holes are. Or maybe if you're at a checkout line in a supermarket, say there's a dozen people in the line, surveys will tell us that one of those people is an Apollo denier. So view it as an obligation and a duty to go up and down the line and figure out who that person is and disabuse them of that notion. So I'm exhorting you and encouraging you in a hopefully positive vein to take education and particularly outreach as a true core value and as an avocation, essentially. Thank you.
So next, Kevin is up to tell us what's happening at the staff office.
All right. Thank you all for being here to the bitter end to see the members meeting. Much appreciated. A lot has been going on at the executive office. We've had some staffing changes. Some of you may have heard that our Deputy Executive Officer and Director of Public Policy, Joel Perriott, rotated out to the Office of Science and Technology Policy. He is coming back, but he has a deep personal desire to perform public service. As many people know, he spent almost a decade at the Office of Management and Budget. So when the Biden administration came in, they tried very hard to recruit him to come help them. And so now he's in a very senior level position at OSTP on a rotating position. That led me to bring back into our fold one of our John Bacall Public Policy Fellows, Bethany Johns, who has gone on from her Bacall Fellowship to have a successful career in public policy. And she's now the Deputy Director of Public Policy and acting interim director. She was here early in the week and got to talk to all kinds of folks. Moving on to fulfillment of some of the strategic plan goals. One of the goals was to bring back an education staff member, and I'm happy to say that we found a great one, Tom Rice, who's been hired as our education and mentoring specialist. He'll be leading the AGU partnership effort on Mentoring 365, starting full-time in August, and also helping the education committee achieve great things. We also hired Michelle Stevenson as senior meetings manager. Some of you may have seen her running around here, and she's actually setting up our reception outside. So make sure you say thank you to her when you get done munching your snacks later. She's been a great addition to our team. We also have Bill McCall hired for sponsorship and exhibits and meeting coordinator. You probably saw him helping the exhibitors on the exhibitor floor, on the exhibition floor this week. We had promoted Jasmine Lathan Gordon to meeting planner 1. She was here earlier in the week. We hired Ruth DeButz as a membership and development administrator to fill an open position that we'd had for a while. And we recruited Jura Park to replace a former staff member as our financial analyst. We're in the middle of a recruitment right now, again, fulfilling one of the goals for the strategic plan to hire a DEI staff member to help support the 4 DEI committees that we have. And we are probably going to have an offer out next week. We have 4 really great finalists, and we're looking forward to hire them. Some with advanced degrees and decades of experience in this space. So I think they'll add a lot once we get them hired. And then we're going to start up a recruitment for a replacement of an additional financial staff member who rotated out earlier this year. We had COVID for a while here, so we closed down the office functionally for much of the 2-year period following after March of 2020. But now we're starting to phase back in. Most of our staff are working 3 or more days in the office, and financially, because we didn't have the revenue from our meetings, we just had virtual meetings versus our in-person meetings. We've tried to really tamp down on expenses, and that's worked quite well. But as we come back out of the pandemic, we need to start traveling again. There's some things that we just haven't done in a while that we really need to do. For example, we haven't visited in person to Institute of Physics Publishing, who published our journals in 2 years, and we really need to have that visit. So that'll all start in the 4th quarter of 2022, and domestic travel had to be lifted so that we could come support our various meetings this spring. For the 2022 budget, we didn't increase dues. And we also doubled, actually a little bit more than that, the financial waiver budget for author fees during our shift to open access to allow to reduce the financial barrier to publication for folks. Most importantly, during the whole time, I was really focused day to day and hour to hour on the health and safety of our staff and their families. That took front and center for me during that time. And we had very minimal infections until recently. Unfortunately, we had a few folks who had some losses in their families, extended families. And of course, everybody in this room experienced that as well. And so I think our hearts go out to everybody who suffered during this time, the millions of people worldwide who have suffered with this pandemic. During the pandemic, though, we kept chugging along. For 2021, we published more than 5,000 articles across all of our titles. We also started a new journal a couple of years ago in partnership with our Division for Planetary Science, Planetary Science Journal. And I'm pleased to say that it's more successful than we thought it would be, and that makes me very happy. We published 244 articles in 2021, and we're on track to produce a financial surplus by 2023, which is important because the society fronted the investment monies necessary to start the journal up, and we need to be paid back for those over time. And just for reference, Icarus published about 347 papers in 2021 and 380 in 2020. So we're on track to be publishing the same number of articles as Icarus in short order, which I'm very happy about. We did have to cancel our 2021 meeting. That put an undue financial burden on all of our exhibitors, and I really appreciate any of the exhibitors who are in the audience here today. And I told them while they were here at the conference that they're with us again. There was no choice with the rising spike of cases. We just couldn't prudently hold the meeting. We did lose some money from deposits and things that we couldn't get back, but we eliminated the penalties from the Salt Lake hotels by signing on to meet in Salt Lake City again in 2027. We don't have the exact week pinned down yet, but that will be probably, we'll sign contracts before the end of July. And finally, we focused quite a lot of resource on providing webinars and career enhancement services to early career members during the pandemic. And that was taken advantage of and quite popular during the time of the pandemic. Just some things that we've done that really benefit members directly or help them in some ways. We have the FAMOUS program to help underrepresented groups travel to attend our conferences. And since 2017, we've given more than 156 members travel support in excess of $100,000, including $18,000 just for this meeting. We've had a child care grant program throughout since 2005, maybe even a little bit before then. And we provided child care to 224 members in the amount of $55,000. Student travel support, we've given travel awards for students in the amount of just under $200,000. We have a Chrétien research grant program, which was founded initially by a donation of a spectacularly interesting individual. I'll tell stories about that later privately. But we've been able to award 18 individual research awards amounting to over $200,000, which I think is a great thing. Also, we have an ongoing history of an international travel grant fund from the National Science Foundation. Typically, we fund about $100,000 a year in international travel. The pandemic shut all of that down, but the program officer worked with us and the grant is still open. We'll be able to start giving travel grants again, starting this spring, in fact. And so there are people traveling this summer to scientific conferences. Some key things that members can do to help the organization succeed longer term: volunteer. We have hundreds and hundreds of people volunteering, and those thousands of hours of commitment help the society achieve things that we otherwise just couldn't do. And it's so valuable. I tell all the volunteers how grateful I am, and I tell them on behalf of all the members how grateful the members are for all of that time that our volunteers deliver. It's fantastically important, whether it's at the division level or committee level or at the most senior levels of our leadership. All of it is important and really is the engine that makes the society function at all. The other thing you can do is help advocate and continue to publish in our journals. Our conversion to open access has seen no decrease at all. In fact, a slight upturn in submissions to our titles, and I think that's a great sign, and hopefully that will continue throughout this year. Obviously, membership is important, but I think it's important to realize that although some organizations' dues play a very significant role in the financial outcome of the society, our dues are something less than 7% of our total revenues, so they're important, but they're and play an important role, but they're not make or break. We have a wide variety of revenue generating activities to pay for all the things that we do. Using the job register is important. Job register is one of our income generating activities that helps round out our budget each year. And so it is the go-to source for jobs in astronomy and astrophysics and closely related disciplines. And it really helps us financially at the end of the day. And obviously Sky and Telescope magazine, having just taken it on recently, please subscribe if you don't already, and encourage your friends or family. And don't forget around the holidays that Sky and Telescope makes a perfect gift from someone who's involved in astronomy. You can carry the excitement of the sky and our knowledge of the universe to your friends and family for a low, low fee. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Kelly Clark, our Chief Finance and Operating Officer.
Good evening. It's nice to see everybody in 3D. It's been a long time since we did this, so let's go forward. So I want to talk a little bit about the 2021 financial results for the society overall. Our net assets are $16.4 million. That's a $1.6 million increase over the 2021 or 2020 net assets. Important thing to know is the investments that Doris is going to talk about a little bit later is that we do end up having to draw on reserves at certain points in time. So from 2016 to 2021, those numbers are shown up there for you. The largest numbers are in 2019, where we actually drew $3.4 million from the reserves. Those draw on reserves were also generated by keeping our author fees at a lower rate to draw down on the reserves. That was a decision of the board, council at that time, now board. Estimated for 2022, it's going to be about 1.4 million. 1 million of that's going to help us cover the costs that Kevin mentioned earlier on the winter meeting cancellation, and about another $400,000 to help the S&T operation run. To talk about disinformation, journals funds do not support S&T. The AAS general fund reserves are doing that. And overall, this shows a history from 1995 to 2021. And it's important to note prior to 2020 or after 2014, those red lines were all reserve draws on the actual reserves of the society, the general operating reserve, again, not the journals. And then when we look at from 2015 up, those red lines were actually budgeted deficits based on using prior period reserves operating within that fund. So there were no draw on reserves to cover those deficits. And 2021 is a record, as you can see it. We had about 500,000 over expense or surplus at the end of the year. And that, sorry. Okay, so that 516,000 came from $238,000 in cost savings, and that's operating costs because the office wasn't completely open, travel expenses were down. And we also were able to achieve tax credit from the IRS for $183,000. That was not budgeted, but we were able to get because of the CARES Act. And job register, it was $95,000 above the budget. We are now receiving more than $700,000 in the job register. And then just to give it perspective, in 2007, it was $235,000. So the job register has really grown over time. And then we're going to use the surplus for the next budget to help offset expenses and try to keep dues and other revenue streams increases just a little bit lower. The journal reserves over time, and again, the money, all the reserves are broken out and tracked separately. The journal reserves over time, you can see that from 2009 to 2014, they grew, and that was due to the market at the time and increased content. There was a period of time where the journal content was growing over 10% per year. And that's where that revenue came from. And then in 2015, the board, the council, now board, decided to draw on that reserves and give some of it back to the authors. And now we're on an uptick to grow those reserves back to a prudent level. Just so you know, when we moved publishers back in 2008, it cost us about $2.8 million to do that. So reserves are good. And the other thing, when you look at the reserve funds, it's important to know we got to take care of the journals in perpetuity. They're going to be around a lot longer than any of us will. So those reserves need to be at a nice level. So the 2021 highlights for the journals is we published over 67,000 pages of content. And you'll see the breakout there. AJ was at 9,000, APJ 43, and then the letters and supplement about 5,000, and PSJ at 3,400. So that's really good. We published 12 magazines for Sky and Telescope, which is 1,056 pages. Meeting attendance at our AAS meetings, not divisions, AAS was 5,400. And we had over 7,000 members renew in 2021. And we published over 1,400 job postings in 2020. And it's up 959 from 2020. So that's the nice uptick. 2020, we did meet our budget. But so that's additional job postings. And then the S&T store, we've had trouble getting that up and running and making it a profitable center. And those revenues were about 327, which is up 232 from 232,000 the prior period. And that's really due to the tie directly to the sale of the William Bell books, which were donated to the society. Okay, the revenue overall with the society, again, looking at the whole picture, not the different cost centers, you'll notice that the largest stream of revenue comes from APJ at 33%, and the Sky and Tel is at 24%. So that acquisition was a big piece of what we see today in the financials for the AAS. And meetings is 8.3. And the expenses, again, the letters, APJ is 27.9, Sky and Tel is 23, and here we see 21% is salaries and benefits. That's what drives the society, is the salary and benefits. It's the people making all the work happen. Now, our current financial outlook is we do have about a $1 million loss on the winter meeting. The summer meeting, we missed our target on revenue about 210,000. So but that's still to be determined because we haven't washed out all the expenses yet. The job register revenues tracking on budget, and dues are just slightly below.
Okay, Doris is next.
All right, I'm going to be quick. Good. So what I plan to do is just give you an overview about our portfolio and how it's been behaving up to 2021. So as you can see, in general, we were doing very well until about 2014, 2015. The market, as we all know, from our personal portfolio has been going up and down. And last year, because of COVID, we had some losses. But in general, if you look for where we started from 2007 and where we are now, we're still in good shape. Again, historical view here about the performances. You'll see that even though we have lost a little bit the last couple of years, COVID, we still are doing all right compared to how we were doing in the past with regards to our gains and our losses. And Kelly went over the withdrawal that we had to do every year for a variety of reasons. Just a reminder how we spend our portfolio. We have about most of it, 56% in equity, and then 38% in fixed income and 6% into real estate. So this is just the quick overview that I wanted to give you all. Thank you very much. And next is Alice.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Alice Monet. I'm the AAS secretary. And I just want to give you a quick review of a couple of matters. Not sure they're in this particular order. Right. So first of all, we always try to give a summary of ethics investigations, the current status and the history of ethics investigations. This is provided by Mark Postman, who is the chair of the Code of Ethics Committee. Since the committee has begun investigating ethics issues, they've had 39 cases since 2017. So we're really talking about small numbers, which is gratifying. In the current year, there have only been 10. 5 of these were classified as Code of Ethics violations, and 5 as alleged anti-harassment and discrimination policy violations. Of the 10 cases that have been dealt with this year, 9 have been closed and 1 is in progress. I made a list here of some of the actions of the board of trustees over the past year. And in the interest of time and patience and the reception waiting for us outside, I am not going to go over every one of them. But I invite you to read the AAS Digest, and the highlights of each board meeting are listed there every month. And if you're curious about what we're up to, or if you have questions about what we've done, please feel free to contact me. I'm more interested in talking about the prize nomination process, which has been evolving. As many of you are aware, prize nominations are now done entirely online. Last year, the process was changed to make the process a little easier for everyone involved. So now, instead of the nominator having to collect vast amounts of data and documents before they can nominate someone, the person submitting a nomination simply has to provide their name and contact information, the nominee's name and contact information, and the names of people who will write letters of support. And an important part of that is that these people must all be contacted before they are listed as writing these letters. Everyone must agree in advance that they will write a letter before they are listed. So please do that. And then the nominee provides their own curriculum vitae, their own bibliography, their own abstracts of relevant publications, and any other personal information that's required for the particular prize. Also, every nominee will be invited to complete a professional ethics self-disclosure form. They're not required to do this. If they choose not to, they don't have to continue with the nomination. But in order to be nominated, in order to complete the nomination, they must complete the form.
Okay, so now we want to open it up for any questions from anybody on any of the reports that have been given. Oh, you have a question from Slack? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, that's Slack. This question from Tom English for Kevin Marble. When will the Shapley program return?
So the Shapley program, because of the pandemic, was shut down. As we bring travel back and we bring on board our new education and mentoring staff member, we'll be starting it back up. So I'm looking forward to it starting in the fall timeframe. I don't have that pinned down yet, but it'll be coming back certainly before 2023.
Okay, we're here.
Yes, hi, thank you for this report. I don't remember hearing about the William Bell donation before now. Could you provide a little extra information about that and why it has led to wonderful revenue for us?
Sure. So the Wilman Bell is a publisher of books of interest to amateur astronomers, like Uranometry 2000, the Night Sky Observing Guide, Annals of the Deep Sky, and books of that type. It was started by a gentleman named Perry Ramaklis and his wife, Pat. They ran the business for more than 30 years. And as they're in their early 80s, they decided they wanted to exit that business. We entered into discussions with them about purchasing the business. And during those discussions, he changed his mind and decided to donate it to us instead. So we took on about audit value of $450,000 of books, which represent something of the order of, I don't remember, Rick and I, how many tons it was, 27 tons, 27 tons of books in a storage facility in Richmond, which Rick and I went down there in the heat with some really strong guys to move out of his basement and into a new storage unit. And we've added those books, at least the best-selling titles, to the Sky and Telescope store. And as we're able to navigate the transition of the inventory from Richmond to our store fulfillment provider, we'll be able to sell more of those books over time.
Thank you.
Okay, I can't tell who you are with masks on, but please go ahead.
Martin Elvis, hi. I just wondered why the president was asked to write to the NASA administrator.
Why the president was asked?
There was a line that seemed to say the AAS president, you, I guess, was asked to write to the NASA administrator, and it didn't say why.
So this is one of the issues that came up to the board. So the board had a fairly long discussion over several sessions about how we should approach this. And so what we want is transparency. That is one of the goals of our organization. And so the first request was to have more transparency from NASA as to the procedure that was used for naming JWST. And then we didn't get a response, so we sent another letter asking again for more transparency. And they are actually, Paul Hertz and Thomas Zerbucken, have you heard his lecture, the plenary lecture? They have now asked the historian, some of the archives were closed during the pandemic, which are now open, and they're investigating what has happened with James Webb in the past history, and they will be letting us know. Okay, another question, go ahead.
I have a question about Sky and Telescope, and when the society acquired that, presumably there was some projection about revenues and how it would help society finances, and I'm just curious how things have panned out compared to those projections.
So the magazine was previously owned by a publishing company called F&W Media, which was an owner of something on the order of 70 titles of so-called niche hobby magazines, ranging from Deer Hunter to Knitting Weekly, including Sky and Telescope. And so they went bankrupt because they had, and I'll just say it here, very unlikely to succeed business model ideas. That led to their bankruptcy. We found out about the auction taking place and acquired the magazine. During that process, they were required to release information for due diligence for potential bidders. And that information was supposed to be correct. For example, how many subscribers they actually have. It ends up that that information was not correct. So where we're at right now is that we're running a slight deficit on the magazine, but we have a plan in place to grow the number of subscribers, and we have two different subscription concepts that we think will be successful that we're going to be rolling out. One is for institutional subscriptions, which doesn't exist right now, and the other one is for a pedagogical version of Sky and Telescope that can be purchased by students of Astronomy 101 classes. And those two things taken together with some cost savings that we found with our subscription management company is likely to get us to a positive bottom line in no less than 5 years. So that's our strategy right now. But it would help if everyone gives gift subscriptions to their friends and family.
And so when you say a positive bottom line, do you mean that year on year it'll be in the black, or that we'll recover the investment?
Over time, it will recover in the investment, but it'll take longer than that to recover the investment fully.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll just add, when this issue of acquiring Sky and Telescope came up to the board, and Kevin presented to the board, it was like 4 years ago or something at this point, it was 100%, everyone was in favor of this. And I think we're just getting positive feedbacks from a lot of people that they're very happy that we have taken over that magazine. Okay, any other questions? Okay, oh, go ahead.
Hi, thank you for the financial disclosure. Now that dues are apparently not a big portion of the revenue, so will there be, options for reduced dues for more frugal members of the society, or at least freeze in dues in the coming years?
So as we prepare the budget, the last thing we ever try tweak to increase is the dues. We try and keep them as low as possible. So they're the last thing that we change. Occasionally, we do have to change it just to make the bottom line work out, but that's the last item that we look at. We try and adjust all of the other rates that we have to adjust before we go to dues. You can argue dues are too high, dues are too low. You can look at the distribution of dues amongst various professional societies, both in science and outside of science. And science dues tend to be on the lower side. We're similar to other AIP member societies for our dues, and we try and keep in that general range. So we don't look to dues to be a major revenue generator for the organization.
Okay, we'll move on to the next part of the program is the in memoriam. We have a slideshow that was put together by Alice. So our tradition is to stand and have a moment of silence for all our colleagues. And I would like to add to this, in addition to the slideshow, for the 1 million people in the US that have passed away due to COVID. Thank you. Okay, here we are. So this is the AAS staff. This is a wonderful set of people. This meeting would not have been possible at all without all of them. And so I hope if any of them, is any of the staff here now, please stand up. All right. Yeah, I think that's Elizabeth at the back. As you can imagine, this meeting, doing it hybrid, has been an enormous change and the staff has really stepped up and done a wonderful job, putting in many, many hours to make this happen. So we just really are very thankful to have the staff that we do. So we also have a lot of volunteers at this meeting, the chairs, people that have been chairs. It's been hard to try to figure out how to do the Zoom people in and start the sessions. And the chairs have been doing, I've been to several of the sessions, they've been doing a wonderful job. So I thank all those. And then we have the hundreds of people that are volunteering for many of our committees. And, you know, it's a volunteer organization, but we just really appreciate all the efforts that our members, they step up. And I remind you, there is that page when you register that you want to volunteer for a committee, please sign up. And our meeting sponsors here, thank you so much. This has also helped to make our meeting possible. And we know it's been challenging the last couple of years to have the exhibits and be there, but it's great to have people that will step up, aerospace companies, our publishing partners, Aura, AUI, USRA, and the Large Telescope program this year. So thank you to those sponsors. Okay, so it's time for a transition. This is the end of our June meeting. This is what our current board looks like right now. And we are changing over. Vice President Jeff Clayton, whereas Jeff was over here. Stand up. He left. Jeff has he's a senior vice president, and basically that's the big role of formalizing what's happening with the meeting, coordinating with the other VPs. But it's been, as you know, just setting up this meeting has been more difficult because of the hybrid nature, and Jeff has done a wonderful job this last year. And Hannah John Kendall, are you here? Yes, please stand up. So Hannah has been a wonderful board member, a very good perspective, and we hope you will continue with your commitment to the society. The new members replacing, we have a rotation. So the senior vice president rotates off, that's Jeff, and Grant will be coming in as the junior member of the group. Steve Unwin will move up to take the senior vice president role, and Adam Bergasser. Please stand up, vice presidents that are here. These are the people that have really worked hard for this meeting. And then our newest trustee will be replacing Hannah is Ashley Zouder Vandelay. Is Ashley here? So she will join the board for 3 years. Okay, so it's time for me to go off, and I just want to say a couple words. It's been an interesting time to be president, to say the least. I join organizations because I feel that the organization is doing great things, and I like to work with the people there. And it's, you know, I've learned a lot. I especially want to thank Kevin, Alice, and Kelly, and Doris, who have been, you know, constant emails. Kevin answers emails like at midnight, and it's a 3-hour time zone difference for us. So it's you know, it's great having the support. It's easy to be on a board when, you know, things are just chugging along. You find out what a board is really like when you face challenges, and we faced a lot of challenges in the last couple of years. We've moved over our meetings and to first virtual, and then the real challenge came when we had to make the decision to cancel the Salt Lake. And I can remember that December 23rd, we were having 2-hour telecons and everybody showed up on the board to do that. We had to move all of our squeeze what would be 32 hours of in-person time during our 4 in-person meetings into long Zoom meetings monthly to try to make up that time. And half the time I forgot to give people breaks during those 2.5 hours. So it's been great working with this group of people. And I'm so happy to have Kelsey take my place because she has been on the board for the last 4+ years. She's in the same time zone as the AAS staff office, so it's going to be much, much easier. She's going to hit the ground running, and she is such a thoughtful and caring person that it's going to be wonderful having her as president. So Kelsey, can you come on up here? We will do the gavel transition, and you can say a few words if you like.
Oh, I closed the meeting. Wow, I'm learning all these new things right now. Gosh, I hope everyone will forgive me. I'm a little bit emotional because my PhD advisor was on that list. But thank you for not taking a picture right now. I really appreciate that. I am, I think, in equal measure, first and foremost, exceptionally grateful for Paula right now and the AAS staff. I think you all are there's a selection effect, I think, of folks who stay for the members meeting at the end. And so I think you are the crowd most likely to get this. I have become increasingly aware of the depth and the breadth of work that goes on behind the scenes that I think, your average member in the AAS isn't aware of, and for good reason, right? We want our members to be able to go about, doing their science and advancing the mission of the AAS without worrying about what happens behind the scenes. And so it's really a gift to know that we have these dedicated, talented, thoughtful people really giving it their level best to help all the members do that. And I really, at this point, Paula, I don't know. I'm sure Kevin, who you may not know, is like an amateur history buff, and he knows more AAS history than I think probably any living soul. If I had to make an educated guess, I would say that Paula probably got the worst 2 years of an active presidency of any president in the history of the AAS. I'm so glad, Paula, that you got at least one in-person meeting. But boy, do you want to run again? Yeah, so I think this is a position where you really do lean on everyone around you and those who came before you to try to do your level best to help the members and advance the mission. So I'm equal parts thankful, kind of excited, and also really, really terrified. So we'll see what happens.
So I didn't get to do this when I became president, so I'm not quite sure of exactly how we do this, but I think I just hand this over to you and you close the meeting.
Okay. Are you ready? Here we go.
Thank you all for coming. Enjoy the closing.
Yeah. All right, let's eat, drink, and be merry.